there is significant funding by groups and organizations to push that, including Sharia, into the United States?
Oh, there's no doubt whatsoever. Prince Al-Walid bin Talal from Saudi Arabia, who has spent millions and millions of dollars in funding universities.
The goal is for the Western Hemisphere, for the Western civilization, the United States, and Texas as ground zero, to become Islamic.
They're working toward eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within, and all the non-Muslim apologists for Sharia that we see are indications of how successful that effort has been. This is all about political power. Nihad Awad, in repeated statements speaking about increasing the number of Muslim congregants.
Did you catch what was said in that hearing? Some critics are warning about the influence of religious law in American public life. Others argue that this is exaggerated political rhetoric. If you've been following debates in states like Texas, you've probably seen how heated the conversation has become. In a recent House hearing, Chip Roy raised concerns about the role of foreign funding, religious legal traditions, and how they intersect with U.S. constitutional principles. He questioned whether certain interpretations of Sharia law, a religious legal framework followed in various forms across Muslim-majority countries, are compatible with the U.S. Constitution. Supporters of Roy say he is defending constitutional governance and raising questions about transparency and foreign influence. Critics argue that the Constitution already guarantees freedom of religion while clearly establishing that U.S. civil law is supreme. The hearing touched on issues such as foreign donations, demographic growth, and community development in places like the Dallas-Fort Worth area. The broader debate centers on religious freedom, constitutional limits, and whether concerns about infiltration are grounded in evidence or political messaging. If you care about how the First Amendment protects both religious liberty and secular governance, this is a discussion worth examining. Let's take a closer look at the arguments presented.
Shield, let me ask you a quick question, and just try to go through these pretty quickly, right? Just a few things with respect to Texas, my friend Mr. Gill was just talking about. Is it true that Boston, including there's a big center in West Campus of the University of Texas, including other places, in other words, it's not just located just Epic City, is that correct?
That's correct.
So I'm also talked to a number of people, particularly in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, women in particular, who will tell me that there are enclaves and areas throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex where they do not go. Where there are women, Texans, who say that because they are in areas that have a high concentration of Muslim men, and because of the nature of what's going on in those areas, that there are now, quote, no-go zones in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And I've heard that from multiple people in multiple places throughout that area, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Spencer, and I'd look to you on this question here. I heard my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who were raising objection to legislation that, and a number of bills that some of us introduced, particularly one that I introduced, that was raising the issue of vetting individuals as we're bringing them into the United States for their adherence to Sharia law. That was the idea. The idea is that Sharia law is inconsistent with our values in Western civilization, so we should know if we're bringing people into the country that may want to advance a system of law or systems that are contrary to our laws. Here's my question. In doing so, my colleagues acknowledged and said that that would mean that Muslims generally would be in fear of deportation or inability to be brought into the country. Does that not suggest that there's a recognition that Sharia law is central to most of the Muslim population throughout the world and those that come to the United States?
It would seem as if they're aware of that, yes.
And is that true? Is
Yes.
Sharia law central to most Muslims throughout the world?
Absolutely. Sharia is considered divine law, and thus it takes precedence over all other legal systems. In areas of the Muslim world where it is not fully implemented, such as Egypt or Syria, other countries, it still has a tremendous cultural influence, such that elements of it are often enforced by individuals or groups where the government doesn't do so.
And is it not true also that there are some 50 plus countries throughout the world in which Sharia is either entirely the law or central to the law in a mixture of its religious implementation, but also its civil?
Yes, that's right. There are 57 members of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, 56 nations, and the Palestinian Authority.
Is it also not true that when we're talking about the advance of the Islam population, or the population of Muslims that adhere to Islam in this country, that it is not also true that there is significant funding by groups and organizations to push that, including Sharia, into the United States?
Oh, there's no doubt whatsoever. You have, for example, Prince Al-Walid bin Talal from Saudi Arabia, who has spent millions and millions of dollars in funding universities such as Georgetown, where they have now the Prince Al-Walid Center for Muslim Christian Understanding that is designed essentially to whitewash Islam, jihad, and Sharia and present a version of these things that are designed to foster complacency. And also have the government of Qatar doing the same thing on an even larger.
In addition to these countries, in addition to foreign funding, there are organizations such as CARE and other organizations that are designed to implement and advance the existence of Sharia and the advance of Islamism in the United States. Is that true?
Oh, certainly. Omar Ahmed, the co-founder of CARE, has been on record saying the Quran should be the only law of the land. He has denied saying this, but the original reporter stuck by her story. Ibrahim Hooper of CARE, the famous spokesman for the organization, said that he wanted to see the government of the United States become Islamic sometime in the future. And this is something that is clear from all of CARE's actions.
And would it be safe to say that the goal of those organizations, and the Muslim Brotherhood, as my friend Mr. Gill said, also from Texas, that the goal of those organizations in advancing Islamist movement in the United States, that the goal is for the Western hemisphere, for the Western civilization, the United States, and Texas as ground zero, to become Islamic?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. That's very clear from the explanatory memorandum of the Muslim Brotherhood, saying that the goal is that Allah's religion is victorious over other religions, and they're working toward eliminating and destroying Western civilization from within. And all the non-Muslim apologists for Sharia that we see are indications of how successful that effort has been.
One last question, I'm over my time, then I'll recognize the gentlelady from Wyoming. Is that not inherently political and not just missional? In other words, not just saying, hey, we would like people to know Allah and to know the teachings of Muhammad and Islam, as much as a Christian might want to advance the mission of Christ, but that it is political in ideology and in effect.
There's no doubt whatsoever. This is all about political power. Nihad Awad, the executive director of CARE, has made that quite clear in repeated statements speaking about increasing the number of Muslim congressmen, getting Muslim senators, and increasing Muslim political power on that basis.
There's a movement afoot across the United States that seeks to overthrow our legal system and the Constitution to replace it with a foreign legal system that upends our American way of life. It seeks to replace these foundational elements of our constitutional order with Islamic law, known as Sharia. Principles of Sharia are at odds with the Constitution and the laws of the United States. The Sharia fails to include due process, treats non-Muslims as second-class citizens, and prescribes barbaric punishments. All the while, polygamy, misguided corporal punishment for perceived violations of Islam, and acts of violence and terrorism on behalf of Sharia are permitted by its adherents. Sharia encourages violence, silences dissent, rejects religious freedom, and subjugates women and children. Let's be clear. This is not about having the freedom of worshiping a religion of one's choosing, such as Islam, but forcing a foreign legal code that is incompatible with our laws and legal system that provides unwanted consequences to the American people. It's everything we've fought against for more than 250 years. Thomas Jefferson recognized this problem at the beginning of the 19th century when he confronted Islamists in the Barbary Wars to keep trade lanes open and end Islamic religious slavery. When envoys and future presidents, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, inquired by what right the Islamic Barbary states preyed upon American shipping, enslaving both crews and passengers, America's two foremost envoys were told by Tripoli's ambassador, quote, "It was written in the Quran that all nations who should, quote, not have acknowledged their authority were sinners, that it was their right and duty to make war upon whoever they could find, and to make slaves of all they could take as prisoners, and that every Mussulman who should be slain in battle was sure to go to paradise," end quote. While the rest is history, with American Marines victorious on the shores of Tripoli as their anthem rings, the American people, this Congress, must recognize the same issue our founders identified and defeated over 200 years ago. Islamists are forcing their legal code onto non-believers by violence or the threat of it by any means necessary. The same problem of radical Islam enforcing Sharia has reared its head in the 21st century, this time using different tactics to advance it across the United States. Some of you might think of Sharia as a 2010s buzzword. That is wrong. Over the last few years, efforts to impose Sharia on American communities have taken off, and nowhere more than in my home state of Texas. In 2024, members of a Plano mosque sought to create their own 402-acre Islamic enclave governed by Sharia within the state of Texas. It was called the East Plano Islamic Center, or EPIC. And thankfully, after advocacy by many in Texas, the Texas state government has currently stymied it from advancing.
Let's unpack why this debate has become so intense. When lawmakers discuss religious influence in politics, figures like Ilhan Omar are often mentioned. Some critics question her policy positions, while supporters say she represents her constituents and operates fully within constitutional boundaries. Roy also referenced early American history, including conflicts during the era of Thomas Jefferson and the Barbary Wars, to argue that tensions involving religious governance are not new. Historians, however, note that those events were rooted in piracy, trade disputes, and geopolitical struggles rather than modern domestic religious debates. It's important to clarify that Sharia, as practiced globally, varies widely by country and interpretation. In the United States, the Constitution is the highest legal authority, and courts have consistently ruled that no religious code can override federal or state law. Religious communities may follow personal faith practices, but civil law governs public life. Claims about no-go zones in American cities have been widely disputed by local officials and law enforcement. While demographic shifts, including growth in Muslim populations in certain states, are documented, population growth alone does not alter constitutional law. The larger question is about religious liberty versus religious establishment. The Constitution protects freedom of religion and prohibits the government from establishing one. That framework applies equally to all faiths and to those with no faith. Concerns about foreign funding of universities from countries like Qatar or Saudi Arabia have been raised across party lines, particularly regarding transparency. At the same time, policymakers debate how to balance openness, academic freedom, and national security. At its core, this issue is about constitutional governance, pluralism, and political messaging. Some see urgent warning signs. Others see political amplification of cultural fears. What do you think? Are these concerns about religious influence grounded in evidence, or are they part of a broader political narrative? Share your perspective below.